Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me in the back? I think we're all awake now after a bit of tea and coffee. For the next 15 minutes, I'll be sharing with you our enterprise immune system, which is our core technology, which is using machine learning and AI for next-gen cyber defense. First, a bit on company background. So we have very interesting beginning origins coming from the University of Cambridge. We're members of the machine learning and mathematics community, as well as government intelligence specialists. So members of MI5 GCHQ came together to use their expertise to find out how they can find new age threats, zero-day attacks, and very sophisticated cyber compromises within an organization. So since then, we've grown tremendously. In Singapore, we're the headquarters for Asia Pacific, but we're dually headquartered in Cambridge as well as San Francisco. Some of the recognition that we've gotten along the way, like Fast Company, last year named us one of the most innovative technologies of 2018. Along with us, we were also featured with Spotify, Netflix, so it's really interesting to see how AI, machine learning is really pioneering the innovative technologies in the future. And we're the only ones currently in that list that are doing cyber defense. So what we're hoping to help customers see is that their networks are very, very different from what they used to be. Traditional security tools were about protecting the perimeter, keeping those bad guys out. But as we know, a lot of the times, it's not that simple. The person on the inside may be the person that may compromise the organization. And a lot of the times, the infrastructure is not as straightforward. A lot of times, they're either handled by third parties. As offices become smarter and more interconnected, we start to see more and more devices that are connected into the internet, and they probably don't have antivirus installed, but they are still susceptible to cyber compromise, to vulnerabilities as well. So we also have, given visibility to our customers that are using cloud or virtualized environments. The things that we help address are not always around data breaches, but more along the lines of very sophisticated threats. So that can come via, a malicious employee. A disgruntled employee has been in an organization for a while. They have access to a lot of different files, a lot of sensitive data. They may want to leave with that data, and they're using the permissions and the infrastructure within the network to leave with it, and they go completely undetected. As well as perhaps that employee that by accident clicked on a phishing email and now has introduced a very sophisticated AI machine attack on the network. So what we're helping to do with a lot of these environments is provide them not only with network visibility using machine learning to understand what is possibly going to happen after that compromise, but as well as an autonomous response module that even without any human intervention, we can stop these in-progress attacks. That is what we use. It's called the enterprise immune system. It derives from the inspiration of the human immune system. So the human immune system is the most successful inside the perimeter defense mechanism in the biological world. It's kept us alive for many, many years, right? Your body doesn't need to get a firmware update on the latest virus or attacks. It knows how to protect us just from a basic principle of understanding itself very well. Your body right now knows every cell, every organ, and every system and the way that it should function for yourself. And anytime there's any sort of early signs of compromise, it helps address it. That's what we do. So what we want to be in a part of the network where we are getting a lot of network data. We are learning on-prem what's normal for the network. So that means, how does this user use their PC from time to time, right? What file servers do they visit? What domains do they visit on the internet? What times do they log in? Do they log in from Singapore only? So on, just to name a couple of cases. And any of these anomalous activities we highlighted here on the threat dashboard, along with our threat visualizer interface. When a customer's been using us for a period of 6 to 8 weeks, they start to ask us, I've seen all of this interesting activity in my network. Are you able to help us? And we can with our autonomous response module called Anti-GNAT. So imagine if there's an in-progress attack, we, with the machine-like speed, are able to drop those anomalous packets, for example. So machine learning that we deploy is unsupervised, meaning that the data sets and everything is learned on-prem. A lot of other machine learning capabilities are mostly on supervised data, supervised sets. So the machine is not really learning on-prem. It's already influenced to look for specific patterns. What makes us different is we are looking at the true network data that's there, and that's where all the understanding is built off of. So similar to the immune system, it's really going to give a clear understanding to the individuals in the security team of what's going on in their network. The autonomous response module is really interesting. It works on a principle called pattern of life. So what it would look for is what specific actions or patterns does this device or this user usually do, how much this next action that they're doing deviates from that norm, and is it possible to bring him back to the norm if it's something that's way too strange. So let's say, for example, someone's login appears at 2 a.m. They start going into file servers that they usually don't go into, and they're really pulling in a lot of data, or it can be in little trickles. And then there's a connection, to a domain that hasn't been blocked by the firewall, so the data starts to leave. Because the machine learning is never sleeping and it's always on premise, it's able to alert the autonomous response module to drop those packets. So the device will be quarantined only in the specific actions that deviates from the norm. And that's what we do. So the idea is the security team will get an alert. There's an actionable response behind that if they desire it. So it buys them time. Instead of having to go, rush into the office and start pulling cables out. Some of the things that we help find, there's some here, but they're mostly around things that hide in clear sight, right? And they can come from, a variety of different worms or Trojans or ransomwares. So we don't have to understand what variant or strain of ransomware or virus. We can show you early indication of possible a threat that may lead to that. We're very good with, again, with data loss prevention, showing you really what data the people in the network are usually consuming, and if there's any deviation of that, that'll be highlighted to the team and possibly stopped by our autonomous response module. Compromise IoT, so the offices, like we see, even the coffee machines have internet connectivity in some of the offices, some of the fridges. They also are susceptible to cyber compromise. We've seen instances where they get compromised and people on the outside are siphoning information out through that one seemingly innocent device. We want to prepare our customers to get better at detecting this. So anything that we see in terms of IT security compliance, cleaning up their hygiene in terms of security, we're able to highlight. So if we see any kind of suspicious activity around VPN usage or Tor browsing, we're able to highlight that as well. We not only work on-prem, but like I mentioned, on cloud, software as a service, as well as industrial control systems. So even autonomous robots, anything on an edge network or a cloud network, we're able to monitor. I'm going to share a couple of case studies before I move on to question and answer, but if you do, you can always visit us out back. But this is a very interesting case that happened with one of our financial services clients. They had a CCTV that was compromised. There was a known vulnerability, and essentially what happened was a C2 server had connected to it successfully, and they were moving massive amounts of data through this device. Because Darktrace Enterprise Immune System usually understands how this device behaves, and also does peer clustering because there's other cameras on premise. You notice that this started to deviate from its normal pattern of life. And so it made the judgment to drop the packets that were moving outbound, especially those that were in ports and protocols that weren't part of the pattern of life of this device. A lot of these attacks that we're seeing are very they're spear phishing, right? So they identify exactly who they want to target, and they'll compromise that device. And we see a lot of that with customers, especially at the C level. So a threat actor, a criminal might want to target, like in this case, they target a key executive. They compromise their device, and we can see, for example, here, the connections from this device that previously weren't made before. So this device comes back onto the network after the executive makes a business trip. We start to notice it's connecting back to some infrastructure back in South Korea, which was atypical for this user because the machine learning's already understood that this domain it's connecting to has a very high rarity score from what previously connected to. So essentially what happened was we prevented and highlighted to the security team any further propagation of what the threat actors were hoping to accomplish with this device. So instead of having that connection continuously exist, compromising other devices in the network, we were able to quickly show them the root cause and the root problem. So phishing campaigns also very prevalent in a lot of organizations. So we had one such case where in one of our manufacturing customers, there was an attachment in an email, right, that was not what it seemed to be. So the user clicks on it, right, it will, the payloads deliver on the network. Before that happens, what happens here is that we're able to see, again, the rarity. Is that sender the person, that sender, that recipient, is that normal for that environment? Does that person usually talk to that domain? Is the type of email that they receive commonly having executable files? These are things that the machine learning is picking up on. So in some cases where someone receives an email with a malicious file, sometimes it doesn't reach the network because the autonomous response module has acted on it and quarantined the device. So the idea is here, again, not allowing the payload to be delivered and not to have it propagate in the network. And lastly, with one of our technology customers, there was a bug that was detected. Essentially what happened was it was an attack over in their server room. And here, again, what the threat actors hoped to accomplish was to leave with information. So again, we show them a specific change in their network, a bug that was present, and from there we were able to alert them. And with our security, our SOC team at Darktrace, we were able to highlight to them what next steps to do to prevent this from becoming worse. So what we hope to accomplish is to complement the existing security stack. We're not here to replace anything. So I know a lot of people ask me, who are your competitors? How do you compare to product A, product B, product C? We all work together to add value to your security stack. Hopefully, with our autonomous response module, we can move in a faster method, faster than we can react at a human pace. The self-learning capability that we have as a baseline will give you an understanding of what your network looks like, because as IT professionals, it's impossible to look at every keystroke and mouse click. And lastly, we have capability of working with anything in the network layer. So it doesn't have to be your traditional endpoint. It can be from an industrial control system to an Internet of Things. So thank you again for your time and your attention. We're just outside. If you have any questions, we'll show you a live demo, and we have a lot of other case studies that we can share. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.